Hey, this is Ben from LSC. Now, I know at this point in this new year that absolutely everybody is sick and tired of just being locked in their house during quarantine and COVID. So, that is why, just to lighten up the mood a little bit, we will be giving you our 10 Netflix suggestions on what to watch during quarantine.
Number 1.
First on our list, and my personal favorite, is the Trailer Park Boys. Now, I like the Trailer Park Boys because it is a very fun and fairly nostalgic show. It's already been around for almost 20 years, and just seeing Julian, Ricky, Bubbles, and Leahy just do the absolute most hilarious things and get into the most dumbest as they go through the most dumbest schemes and shenanigans. It makes it an absolute hilarious show to watch or rewatch if you haven't seen it yet.
Number 2.
Next up, we have a early show with one season so far out on Netflix. And if you're really into video game lore, then I would highly recommend watching the Netflix special of The Witcher. Now, in order to get a better grasp of the show, I would recommend you actually play through some of the Witcher games in order to get a better understanding, because once you play through some of the games, a lot of the elements and plot devices in the show will be more familiar to people that are actual fans of the game franchise. And it's one of the rarest live-action depictions of a popular video game where it's not a complete dumpster fire. I'm looking at you, Super Mario Brothers and Street Fighter.
Number 3.
Now, when this show first came out, there's been a lot of initial hype around it because of the A-list celebrity actor, Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill. Now, Mark Hamill does play a major part in the show Nightfall. Now, Nightfall takes place with the story of the Knights Templars and the end of the Knights Templars and the Crusades. Now, the setting to one of the Knights Templars branches takes place during France, and the story progresses at the beginning from just the Knights Templars helping out the Pope, protecting the land and protecting the relics, to the king backstabbing them, pushing them out of their land, and hunting down and torturing every single person of the Knights Templar. I like a story, whether if it's in a show or a movie, that does the Knights Templars correctly, just because the actual history of the Knights Templars and the Crusades go through a long period of historical time, so it'd be really hard to put it in a short movie or even a short TV show. So far, with the first and second season of Nightfall being on Netflix, that shows a real story of survival and betrayal, as the Knights Templars not only face certain battles, but also run for their life as they go through survival and betrayal. Now, if you like an action show that depicts religious history, intensive battles, violence, swordplay, explosions, and all that, then I would recommend going through the first 2 seasons of this series.
Number 4.
For anybody that's been a previous fan of The Simpsons as well as Futurama, will actually enjoy this next series, also created by Matt Groening. Now, Matt Groening, after doing both The Simpsons and Futurama for a while, actually decided to start fresh with a new series called Enchantment that takes a fresh take from his previous work. Now, while the story of The Simpsons took place during the present and Futurama takes place during the future, the setting of Enchantment takes place in the past in a fictional medieval kingdom called Dreamland. Now, even though the story's set in the past, it actually does have creative setting and scenery with a lot of mythical creatures and characters such as fairies, elves, wizards, demons, griffins, and giants. Now, the story of Enchantment revolves around three main characters. The first is Bean, which is the princess of Dreamland, that's an adventurer and actually has a bit of a rebellious streak to her, to the point where she ends up getting caught up in a lot of unnecessary and sometimes comedic situations. Then we got Lucy, which is Bean's personal demon, and with almost like the personality of Bender from Futurama. And then we have Elvo. Elvo is an elf that's more like the dim-witted character of the group. Not really the brightest of the bunch. In fact, his stupidity and lack of observation ends up getting him and the other main characters into some sticky and sometimes pretty funny situations. So if you want to actually binge through another animation series, I would highly recommend Enchantment.
Number 5.
Now, personally, I've been a really huge fan of mob and crime movies, watching such classics as The Godfather, Scarface, as well as Goodfellas. So you know how curious I was when I checked out the recent Netflix documentary of Fear City, New York versus the Mafia. Now, the documentary of Fear City tells the story of the major takedown of the 5 mob families that actually had the most influence over New York back in the 70s and 80s. Now, the documentary crew does really go in depth by interviewing all sorts of people like ex-mobsters, FBI agents, police, and judges in order to showcase a big picture battle between the 5 mob families and the city of New York trying to take them down. So if you're looking for an intensive story that actually takes a look at what crime life used to be like in New York City, then I would highly recommend watching this.
Number 6.
Now the next one is for my fellow gamers. Gamers, rise up. We have another Netflix documentary called High Score. Now, High Score is a documentary that talks about the history of gaming and video games as a whole, starting from the arcade era of gaming to 16-bit to the modern era of video games that we play and cherish today. Throughout the series, it actually shows the major evolution in gaming, starting as a simple hobby and pastime, up towards being an actual art form created by passionate developers that wanted to showcase their creation, turning the gaming industry into the massive culture that it is today. So if you're interested in deep diving in the history of video games, I would actually suggest this documentary.
Number 7.
Next up, we got Cobra Kai. Now, Cobra Kai is a series that takes place years after the events of the Karate Kid movie. It even uses the same 2 actors of Ralph Macchio and William Zabka that play adult versions of their past Karate Kid counterparts, of Daniel and Johnny. Now, in the series, it actually showcases the aftermath on what the events of the Karate Kid movie actually impacted the 2 main characters in their adult life, with Daniel becoming a successful person with a multi-car dealership franchise, whereas Johnny ends up being a complete loser at the beginning of the series, working odd-end jobs and always being drunk most of the time. As well as the past Cobra Kai dojo being completely disbanded from after the Karate Kid movie. And that wasn't until Johnny ended up saving some kid, and they both teamed up to actually restart the Cobra Kai dojo. And after that, the majority of the show, at least for the most part, has been a back and forth battle and power struggle with both Daniel and Johnny after Johnny started up his dojo again. If you're a fan of the past Karate Kid movies and would want to watch something that gives you a little hint of nostalgia, then I would recommend watching the series.
Number 8.
Next up, we got Evil Genius. Now, Evil Genius is a Netflix documentary that actually talks about a disturbing heist that happened back in Pennsylvania, where a pizza delivery guy ends up trapped with a bomb strapped to his neck and is forced to rob a bank and go on a scavenger hunt before the bomb explodes and blows off his head. Unfortunately, he was the actual pizza man bank robber, wasn't actually that successful and ended up having his head blown off after robbing the bank before the police were able to disarm the bomb. After showcasing that incident, most of the actual documentary actually goes into uncovering the truth and finding who were the real masterminds behind this heist, interviewing multiple subjects and coming up with a complete investigation to find out who is responsible for this bomb heist. With only a handful of episodes that you can easily binge in one afternoon or evening, if you're interested in mystery and investigation shows, then I would recommend watching this series.
Number 9.
Next up is the history of swear words, obviously in different funny ways. History of Swear Words is a comedical documentary where each episode actually goes into the deep language history of each swear word, from fuck, cunt, piss, shit, and all that sort of stuff. And with Nicolas Cage being the host of this series and adding his little comedic jabs here and there. So if you want to have a bit of a laugh, I would recommend watching the history of swear words.
Number 10.
Last but not least, we have the show Barbarians. So Barbarians is a series that showcases a big picture conflict between both the Romans and the German tribe that's depicted within the series. It actually pictures the language of Latin actually fairly well and really historically accurate. Even up to the armor of the Romans, instead of just doing a same copy and paste armor that a lot of movies and shows usually use for the Romans, they actually have a unique armor style that they specifically made for the Romans. So if you're interested in a historical action-thrilled series, then I would highly recommend watching The Barbarians. Alright, so that's our list of Netflix series that you should check out. If you obviously want more movie-based list videos like this, then make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome content.